Perhaps America's greatest expert on these Occupy protests is our next guest, Andrew Breitbart, the rebel journalist who joins us now from Los Angeles. Andrew, thank you very much for being here again.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on because in the United States there seems to be an embargo on allowing for me to go on the television to tell people exactly what is going on in the Occupy movement.
Well, they may try and embargo you, but I think people get around that embargo. They go to your website, biggovernment.com, and Breitbart TV, Breitbart.com. I think you're getting out despite the media. Here in Canada, we have the same thing. The consensus media is on side with these protests, but we at the Sun News Network are critical, and we think that these protests are fizzling. Is it your observation, by looking all around America and Canada, that these Occupy protests have sort of run out of steam, or at least in the media, or are they still being championed and cheerleaded by the consensus media?
Well, they are being cheerleaded by the consensus media. There's a massive cover-up of the origins of this. This is a group that many of us around the world know, international socialists, communists and anarchists who like to find a crisis, whether it be in Greece or at a WTO meeting. This is the same group of people, and they want to foment not just a revolution within the United States, but to foment an international revolution. That's why they've brought in so many. That's why they've aligned themselves with the Arab Spring. That's why they've aligned themselves with pro-Palestinian, pro-Intifada groups. The mainstream media will not tell you this. An interesting video that tells the story of the actual participation versus the media false perception of this being a large international mass movement. Yesterday in the British papers, they played up a video of a helicopter that showed a thermal overview of the Occupy London. And you could see that in the 200 tents, during the middle of the night, there were only 20 tents that were occupied with human beings. But to the common eye, one thought that this was an encampment filled with 200 people.
I believe it too. In Occupy Toronto, one of the fellas said he likes to skedaddle off to a local condo for a hot shower. Now, let me ask you this. Oakland, which is not too far away from where you are, it turned to violence the other day and full-out riot. Is that the next phase, to move from hippies whining about how they, their Twitter and iPhones aren't working, like the sort of effete, elite, university fancy pants, to the real black bloc rioters? I mean, are we going to see the transformation of this to the next level in order to get to this Arab Spring type revolution? Should we in Canada be worried about an Occupy Oakland style riot too?
Well, I would say that this isn't the opinion of a rebel journalist. These are the words of the organizers themselves when they get together in a left-wing bookstore with Natasha Leonard, a reporter for the New York Times, who openly talks about how the anarchists within the movement want to step things up into illegal actions against the banks and other institutions. They want to step this up and create a mob mentality. They talk about it in the emails that we were able to expose as well, that showed that they wanted to make it as amorphous as humanly possible, which was the suggestion of MSNBC News' Dylan Radigan, to bring in as many people. And then it would be the anarchists and the socialists within that would use their time-tested strategies of poking and prodding the police. And that's what they're trying to do, is to poke and prod the police in order to have a Kent State moment. That is exactly what Donnie Deutsch, formerly of NBC, said that needs to happen, is that they need to have a Kent State moment where the people say that the police and the authorities overreacted to this innocent group of people. These people are highly scripted, and they know how to agitate. But thankfully, within the last 3 years in America, because we have a community organizer as president, people are now sophisticated in interpreting how international activists and an activist president are able to use the mainstream media in order to try and foment a revolution, and people are not biting.
Well, let me ask you this. If they get their Kent State moment, I mean, if police perhaps overreact or if there is a death, what does that accomplish? I mean, there might be some local recriminations and inspections of police conduct, but what's the big payoff? If there were, I mean, the Mohawk Warriors, that's an armed Aboriginal group, is joining the Occupy Toronto group. I think that portends there's a possibility of violence. But what are they expecting will happen from that? We only have a minute left, so tell me, if there is violence, how does that pay off politically other than for a news story?
I would say that in one word, martyrdom. They're looking for a Rodney King. Just yesterday, the big meme on the left is that an Iraq war veteran was injured, that his scalp was fractured, or that his skull was fractured in a fracas with the police in Occupy San Francisco. And the left is playing that up majorly today because they want to get people's sympathies up that they're the innocent victims of police brutality, and because they just want to increase numbers. And we have found people on tape saying on camera to our people that they want a bloody revolution. They're being pretty darn serious about it. So the more blood there is, the more these people are sated, because they're not going to be happy with just reforming the system. One of its leaders, Lisa Fithian, has said that you can't reform the system, that it has to be burned down to the ground.
Andrew Breitbart, we've got to leave it there. Thank you for giving us the view from L.A. We hope to talk to you again. God forbid we'll have violence in Canada. But you know what? When the Mohawk Warriors come in, I think violence can't be far behind.